if you look on a map, I mean, all rural areas were red. I mean, all the coastal cities, blue. So what's that show you? I mean, I don't want to say it in a bad way, but it's like the major population against the rural population.
Northeastern Colorado has always been predominantly Republican. The urban corridor, we think of Denver, is pretty much Democrat. Sometimes issues are very open and we're willing to talk, and other issues are determined and decided. Urban is where they have all the votes and all the people. And so sometimes the rural people kind of feel like their voice is not being heard.
You don't find people that say, oh yeah, my aunt and uncle live on the farm, or my grandparents are on the farm, or this and that. That just doesn't happen. They're gone.
We're losing population in what we would call our frontier county. At one point in the state legislature, the rural legislators were much more predominant. But as population has grown along the Front Range, new census comes along, and you have to have so many people in a district.
That's not good for rural Colorado and agriculture. We just don't have the numbers. We hardly have anybody in the legislature representing us.
One size doesn't fit all. What you can regulate in one area of the state is different from another. You can't just say, well, everybody has to do bicycle paths or everybody has to do mass transit. That's probably the divide, if I had to put it in a nutshell, where we end up spending our money. Rural areas are more conservative fiscally, they're more conservative socially, and that more fits in with the Republican Party. But agriculture, especially as things came up with environment and new water regulations and new air regulations, it made them become even more conservative.
The nation was transformed by environmental regulations. Environmental laws, Endangered Species Act, the National Environmental Policy Act, all kinds of things really were game-changing laws. They had unintended consequences, and I think rural people often encounter a disproportionate share of those.
Farmers now are looking at more and more regulation. Are you testing this water, and are you over-fertilizing? And it's driven more by people they don't see.
The urbanites don't necessarily see how much they are reshaping the economies in those regions.
We want to maintain this standard of living for all of us. Each side has to be aware of the needs and wants of the other.
We want to go to the grocery store and we want those things to be there, but we don't want disruption of ecosystems. We don't want the use of water for projects that we think are wastes of water, even as we're eating our strawberries.
The weeds that kind of are a nuisance to our crops, there's only certain practices that we can use now to get that stuff under control. It makes it tough. It makes it really tough. It comes down to regulation, but it's a lot deeper than that, I'd feel. I guess you could call us old-fashioned out here. Like Second Amendment, your gun rights, your standpoint on abortion. We're so close, but yet so far in different thinking.
Politics just call out for a recapturing of that notion that this state has to prosper as a whole.
Rural is pretty much what voted in the current president. We had a big role in his election.
Hey, let's give it a shot. And if he doesn't do or live up to his expectations of what he says, we'll move on, and we just always look forward, not backwards.